The 2024 Kansas City Chiefs were probably the most polarizing roster and franchise that I've seen in my entire lifetime. Even going back to the early Tom Brady New England Patriot teams, I think the sort of way that Kansas City was winning this year, the sort of off the field coverage and uh, non player coverage that happened for the Kansas City Chiefs this year really turned people off of the Kansas City Chiefs. And they were a roster at one point, especially led by Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and anybody else that's been on this team. I think people just kind of have had enough of the Kansas City Chiefs. And because of that, a lot of people were happy that they lost the Super Bowl. Whether you were betting on the Eagles, whether you just were rooting on the Eagles, whether you have no rooting interest at all in either of the teams that were playing, it seems like most people that you talk to were really hoping that the Kansas City Chiefs lost more than the Philadelphia Eagles won in this Super Bowl. A part of that reason is this offense was really, it still is an offense led by Patrick Mahomes, right? It still has Travis Kelce. It still has guys that everybody likes, like Isaiah Pacheco. Rashee Rice got injured very early in the year, so it sucks to not see his development from his rookie season 2 years ago. But his production was somewhat filled by Xavier Worthy. And throughout the playoffs, throughout the regular season, Worthy proved to be equal in value to that first-round selection that was used on him. He proved to be a solid piece and a guy going forward that's going to be a major target for Patrick Mahomes. And even going over to the defense, a group that was led by Steve Spagnuolo had one of the higher pressure rates and blitz rates in the NFL last year. You have not really outstanding production from one singular player in either the secondary or the pass rush or at the linebacking group. You don't have outstanding production from any of those guys, but you just have overall very good production from a bulk of guys, even getting into the depth pieces that they had. And a lot of those depth pieces, offensively and defensively, are going to be up as free agents this year. Offensively, it's a lot of receivers, right? You have guys that you brought in or brought back this year, like Hopkins, Brown, Smith-Schuster, and Hardman. You have Justin Watson, who has been on this team for a few years now. But defensively is where you lose probably a lot of depth. Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell, Charles Omenihu, Tershawn Wharton, Nazeed Johnson at corner. He played more in the beginning of the season, but he still is just one of those players that, you don't want to just lose a guy that's been in your system for a while. And then you have the big names like Justin Reed, like Nick Bolton, who are going to be commanding a lot of money in the offseason this year, upwards of $10 million a year. And while, yes, the Kansas City Chiefs have a very good and very honestly easy chance to just make a lot of cap space with converting, roster bonus or salary bonus for Patrick Mahomes, extending Joe Tooney, doing contract magic with, a lot of the guys on their team. They can make a lot of cap space. But I think there also is the factor of whether or not people want to be on a team that's going to be highly scrutinized like the Kansas City Chiefs have been the last couple of years. And, to some extent, players don't care about that. To some extent, players do. But with what the roster looks like, you see those obvious voids from those guys that are leaving, like at safety, like on the defensive line, in the linebacker group. You see that this is going to be a roster that's going to have some new names on it, more than likely, and possibly not really have a full chance at filling those voids. Now, offensively, like I said, there already are the clear moves to make in terms of getting as much cap space as possible. Now, the Chiefs already have franchise tag Trey Smith at that $20 million rate, and as great as Trey Smith is, that put them well over the cap, 15 or so million over the cap. So they got to figure out how to make more cap space with Patrick Mahomes and Joe Tooney's contracts. And then In terms of adding talent, the Chiefs need a receiver. And you could easily see a vet, someone like a Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, guys that are trying to get a ring with Kansas City. You could easily see one of those guys going there. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see DeAndre Hopkins come back on a cheap deal. And somebody that's just, I guess, uber reliable at the running back position is going to be a massive upgrade over what they've had the last few years. Someone like a Najee Harris could be an every down guy, can help in the passing game and in the running game. I'd also be interested to see if the Chiefs would have any interest in someone like Nick Chubb, who I'm sure in his own right is looking for someone who really believes in his ability, even coming off of the terrible leg injury that he had. I think him in the right system as well would be very beneficial for himself and whatever team he goes to. And finally, the Chiefs cannot put Joe Thuney in the same position that they put him in last year, putting him at left tackle like they had to at the end of the year. Mike Caliendo came in and played extremely well given the circumstances, but they just can't do that. And the best left tackle that's going to be available is Cam Robinson. And I would have no issue sending $18 million towards Cam Robinson to have him be the left tackle of at least 2 or 3 seasons. Defensively in free agency this year, we need to start relying on the front four to gain pressure. We can no longer be the team that is in the middle of the pack in terms of sack totals, but is at the top of the league in terms of actually blitzing and sending pressure. They hit the quarterback a lot last year. They got a lot of pressure. I would hope so with how much they blitz. And with how much they blitz, it leaves their secondary in a much more vulnerable position than when you don't blitz. Especially if somebody like Justin Reed is going to be gone. You just need to be able to rely more on your front four to get that pressure. Azeez Ojulari, bring back Tershawn Wharton, bring back Charles Omenihu, get someone like Sebastian Joseph Day or Sheldon Rankins. All 5 of those guys can get after the pass rusher. And if George Karlaftis, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, and whoever else probably gets drafted this year, you get a pass rush for at least 2 years that can really supplement what you're possibly losing in the secondary. Now, speaking of the secondary, I think you really need to keep another guy opposite of Trent McDuffie. As great as he is, Trent McDuffie cannot cover 3 receivers at once, So you get someone like Asante Samuel or Byron Murphy to be the guy opposite of Trent McDuffie. You have a great cornerback group. And you have to make a choice between Nick Bolton or Justin Reed. Personally, I would choose Bolton due to the ability to actually replace safety this year in the draft. I think is a lot easier than it is linebacker. You really have 1 or 2 guys at linebacker. You have maybe 3 or 4 guys at safety that I think you could feel really comfortable with. So I would make the choice of Nick Bolton to keep him on the defense instead of Justin Reed. But I can see it go either way. And now on to the draft. So this year, the Chiefs have 3 picks in the first 66 of the entire NFL draft. That's a pretty decent spot to be in, especially as a team that was in the Super Bowl. With that first round selection at number 31, I'd really be interested in taking somebody in the secondary, specifically in the back end with a safety. Nick Emanwari from South Carolina or Malachi Starks, if he's there, from Georgia. Those would be the 2 guys I would highly covet. And if either of those guys are gone, I think you just still increase your ability to get after the pass rusher with your front 4. Guys Mike Green, JT Tuyamalo, Jack Sawyer, Tyleek Williams. There's a lot of pass rushers this year in the draft, and you put somebody on this team whose main goal is just go get the pass. Go get the passer. We're not going to rely on you to be a guy getting 10 to 15 tackles for loss, Your main goal is to go get after the passer. And you're going to have a lot of opportunities unblocked because even though they want to rely more on their front four for a pass rush, it's Steve Spagnuolo. He's still going to blitz at the highest rate in the NFL, more than likely. So you're going to have guys that are going to have free lanes at the passer. With the 63rd and 66th pick that the Chiefs have, I think you get whoever you like the most at tight end and running back. Now at tight end, I think you get like Mason Taylor, you get Gunnar Helm, you get Harold Fannin Jr. to be the next guy after Travis Kelce. Regardless of whether you think he had a productive year last year, Travis Kelce's best days are behind him. And he probably is not going to be, even at the current level he was last year, for much longer. This might be his last year in 2025. So you get somebody that can play behind him. I know Noah Gray is there. That's fine. I'm not going to kid myself into thinking Noah Gray is the next best tight end in Kansas City. I'm not going to kid myself with that. But you get one of these guys that's uber athletic, guys that have shown production at the college ranks, and you just have them develop behind Travis Kelce for a year, and then you throw them into the fire. At running back, though, too, I mean, if you get so lucky that one of those two Ohio State running backs, between Trevion Henderson, between Quinshon Judkins, you get either of those guys, you gotta take one of them. If it's Ollie Gordon, if it's even Cam Scatterbo, you need a running back in the draft this year. Yes, you've gotten by using a 7th round pick on Isaiah Pacheco, but that didn't really show much for you this year. Yes, you brought in Kareem Hunt. That didn't really do much this year. And, just guys in the past that have been on this roster, they tried getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire 4 or 5 years ago. That didn't work either. They need to take another bite at the apple with this running back group, because this is one of the best running back groups that we've seen in a long time from the overall depth and talent that they have. So you just got to get somebody that is one of those top tier guys at the position. This is going to be a year for the Kansas City Chiefs that we possibly see them with a brand new mindset at the start of the 2025 regular season. We see this more of a team that is going to be, I guess, back to some of the roots of the Patrick Mahomes ascension. Explosive plays. You have a defense that is prone to taking the ball away and hitting the quarterback. You have a complementary enough running game, but an offense that is more centered around these stars that are making life very easy on Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be probably as good as they were last year. Honestly, for a 15-2 team, I don't think I've seen a team play worse winning that many games. You just have all these games back to back to back where the Chiefs are not playing at their best capabilities, but B, they're not able to keep other teams from playing at a high level either. Look, I'm not saying something that's breaking news here and saying that the Chiefs got lucky in a lot of their games last year, whether it's, for whatever reason. But you could see it going either way, right? You could see it being that their luck runs out and this run that they're on just falls flat. And that wouldn't be surprising. But I could also see this team just getting back to the dominant level that they have been for the past 7 years, and even going a step further than that.